Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Update, your go-to source for the latest news, expert insights, and real-time developments on Iraq's currency, economy, and financial reforms. Whether you're a long-time investor or just curious about the dinar, you're in the right place. When Donald Trump came into office, he carried with him a very different approach to the Middle East, especially in terms of how the United States dealt with countries like Iran and how that relationship influenced the stability of neighboring nations, particularly Iraq. One of the first major policy actions he took in the region was to aggressively push back against Iranian influence, not just rhetorically but through direct political, economic, and military measures. This created a domino effect across the region, but perhaps nowhere was it felt more deeply than in Iraq, a country long caught between US and Iranian interests. Under previous administrations, Iraq had become a kind of political battleground. Iran had infiltrated deep into Iraq's political and military structures, funding militias, influencing elections, and even gaining leverage over oil exports and infrastructure contracts. This resulted in a chronic state of instability. Iraqi citizens lived under constant threat from internal violence, political corruption, and foreign interference. The fear of Iran was not just abstract, it was real and tangible. People knew that Iran-backed militias could act with impunity. Government institutions were often paralyzed by competing allegiances. The entire framework of Iraqi governance was strained, and as a result, economic reforms were either stalled or half-heartedly executed. This all changed drastically during the Trump administration. Trump adopted a doctrine of maximum pressure on Iran, which included sanctions so sweeping that the Iranian economy was brought to its knees. But sanctions were just one part of it. Trump authorized the targeted killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in January 2020, a move that many saw as the strongest blow against Iranian regional operations in years. Soleimani had been the mastermind of Iran's presence in Iraq and elsewhere, and his death sent shockwaves through the networks he had so carefully constructed. This bold move not only crippled Iran's strategic ambitions in Iraq, but it also sent a clear message to Iraqi politicians and militias. The US would no longer tolerate Iranian overreach. Suddenly, the fear of Iran began to wane. Iraqi citizens, who for years had felt like their government served two masters, began to see hope for true sovereignty. The Iraqi government itself, long divided and compromised, began making moves that aligned more closely with national interests rather than regional allegiances. But why is this important for the Iraqi economy and specifically the exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar? In order for Iraq to even consider adjusting or reinstating its currency to a meaningful international value, there needs to be a baseline of political and economic stability. Currency reform is not simply a financial exercise. It is a deeply political act that requires trust in the institutions managing the money supply. Without stability, no foreign investor, international bank, or trade partner would risk dealing with Iraq on equal terms. The removal of Iran's influence under Trump cleared the way for the Central Bank of Iraq to start focusing on structural monetary reforms that had been delayed or derailed due to political instability and security threats. Now, the belief expressed in the original statement is that all this clearing of the board, this strategic removal of Iranian presence, was not just a geopolitical play, but specifically a necessary move to prepare the country for a new exchange rate. If you look at how monetary policy unfolds globally, one of the key prerequisites to revaluing a currency is securing the nation from both internal and external threats. The Trump administration's aggressive stance against Iran removed one of the major obstacles to this goal. The last sentence, "Donald Trump wants America to get repaid," touches on one of Trump's broader economic philosophies. Unlike previous presidents, Trump viewed foreign policy through the lens of transactions and return on investment. He was very vocal about America's involvement in Iraq, frequently criticizing how much the US spent during the Iraq War and demanding that the US be compensated, particularly through oil and economic opportunities. From this viewpoint, allowing Iraq's economy to flourish. If Iraq were to revalue or reinstate the dinar at a higher rate, US citizens and institutions holding large amounts of dinars could benefit substantially. More importantly, US businesses operating in Iraq would suddenly find themselves in a healthier economic environment. Contracts paid in dinars would be worth more. Banking channels would be more reliable. Trade volumes could rise. Oil revenues, repatriated or shared through joint ventures, would be more secure and lucrative. It's also worth noting that Trump's emphasis on repatriating capital and ensuring American benefit from foreign engagements fits perfectly with the notion that he would want to see Iraq's currency reform succeed. It's not just about helping Iraq, it's about making sure the US also profits from Iraq's success. That includes ensuring the monetary environment in Iraq is solid, trustworthy, and transparent, something that could never happen under heavy Iranian manipulation. So, when the original speaker says that Trump wants America to get repaid, it's not just political rhetoric. It's a policy framework. Trump believed that after decades of war, expenditure, and political capital invested in Iraq, the time had come for America to finally see dividends. That means economic reform. That means monetary stabilization. That potentially means a new exchange rate for the dinar. In essence, the argument made is that everything Trump did in Iraq and toward Iran served one larger economic purpose: creating the conditions necessary for Iraq to not only become a sovereign and functioning state, but also to restore its currency to a meaningful international value. A currency that reflects the real wealth of the country, particularly its oil reserves, mineral wealth, agricultural potential, and strategic geopolitical location. This isn't just speculation. Countries that experience post-conflict recovery often go through stages. First comes security, then comes economic reform, then comes monetary reform. Trump, whether by design or consequence, accelerated the first two. That opened the path for the third. In conclusion, the idea that Trump removed Iran and thus created the environment necessary for a new exchange rate isn't far-fetched when analyzed in depth. It aligns with known patterns of economic development, monetary policy execution, and the psychological preconditions for investment confidence. Under Trump, Iraq was afforded a rare opportunity to cut the cords of Iranian interference, build genuine stability, and start focusing on rebuilding its monetary and economic sovereignty, steps which, for those holding Iraqi dinars and watching closely, suggest that a major shift in currency policy may not be a matter of if, but of when. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed and stay ready.